It always starts the same way. A man falls, not because he's weak, but because he's attached to her words, to her reactions, to the highs and lows she brings into his world. He wanted to be strong. He wanted to be her rock, but somewhere along the way, he started chasing her validation like a thirsty man chases a mirage in the desert, and it drained him. I remember a man I met at a gym in Austin. Quiet guy, mid-40s. Name was Daniel. Worked construction during the day, lifted heavy at night. But there was something about him, stillness in his eyes, like he'd seen storms and made peace with them. One night, over protein shakes, he told me his story. Divorced, 2 kids, wife left him after 17 years. No cheating, no abuse, no financial struggle. She just said, "I don't feel it anymore." He smiled when he told me. I asked him how he kept his peace through something like that. He said, "Because I realized I was never hers to begin with. I belong to my principles." That line stuck with me for months. I belong to my principles. That's the Stoic code. That's the emotional detachment people mistake for coldness, but in truth, it's presence, calm, rootedness. And ironically, that's what women are drawn to the most. Not the man who texts back in seconds, not the one who changes his tone to keep her happy, not the one who chases butterflies of emotion in hopes of keeping her from flying away, but the man who doesn't flinch. Because in a world where men are told to be more emotional, there's a quiet rebellion rising, a masculine calmness that refuses to be pulled by every wave. And when you become that man, you don't chase attraction, you become it. There's a scene in nature that perfectly explains this. Picture a mountain lion. It doesn't roar to be noticed. It doesn't chase every movement. It watches, it waits, it's still. That stillness, unnerving, composed, powerful, is what creates presence. Now compare that to a chihuahua barking at shadows. Women can sense it, the difference between masculine energy that's self-mastered and energy that's desperate to be received. True emotional detachment isn't indifference. It's not about not caring. It's about caring deeply, but not being enslaved by the outcome. And that difference changes everything. Let me take you back to Marcus Aurelius. The man ruled the Roman Empire, yet journaled like a monk. In one passage he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." He didn't say feel less, he said master more. That's Stoicism. A man who is emotionally detached isn't numb, he's disciplined. He doesn't shut off his heart. He trains it not to jump at every flicker of emotion, not to surrender its dignity at the feet of temporary people. And that's why she can't forget you. Because while others react, you remain. While others beg, you observe. While others perform, you embody. And in a world where most men echo others, you become silence that speaks volumes. And in a world where most men echo others, you become silence that speaks volumes. You walk into a room and don't need to announce your worth. You don't fill the space with noise, bravado, or shallow charm. You simply exist, anchored, grounded, unreadable. And that mystery, it pulls her in. Not because you're playing games, but because you're not playing at all. You're living. You're busy building something real inside yourself, so you don't have time to perform. A woman once told me something I've never forgotten. She said, "The sexiest man I ever met never flirted with me. He just looked at me like he'd already seen the truth and wasn't impressed." At first, I thought that was arrogance, but it wasn't. It was discernment. It was emotional independence. She felt something rare in him, a man who didn't need her to feel whole, a man who could love her but never worship her, a man who remained himself, whether she stayed, left, or vanished without a word. And here's the secret that few men learn until they're broken. When you become emotionally detached from outcome, you become emotionally attractive by essence. That doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop reacting. Because you've done the inner work. You've faced the demons when no one was watching. You've walked alone. You've learned to breathe through rejection, smile through betrayal, and stand up straighter every time life tries to kneecap you. You've become unshakable. And here's what most men don't realize. She doesn't want your soul. She wants your spine. She wants to feel your calm more than your compliments. She wants to lean on you, not lead you. And the moment you stop needing her is the moment she starts needing to understand you. There's a story about a man named Tom, mid-30s, ex-military. He'd been cheated on by 2 women back to back, left cold, ghosted. First time he broke, second time he trained, not his body, his mind. He got into Stoic philosophy, not to become colder, but to become clearer. He learned to observe emotion without being consumed by it, learned that feelings are visitors, not kings. When he met the next woman, he didn't chase, he didn't promise the world. He just showed up, calm, slow, controlled. She told her friends, "There's something about him I can't explain. He makes me feel safe and a little nervous at the same time." That's the effect of a non-reactive man. You become both the comfort and the challenge. Because when you've cultivated inner peace, your silence becomes more seductive than most men's sweet talk. When you're not performing, you're embodying. When you're not chasing, you're building. And when you no longer need her attention to feel whole, she senses that, and it draws her in. So ask yourself, are you still trying to be liked, or are you becoming unchangeable? Because women don't fall for the man who follows her emotions. They fall for the man who's mastered his own. They fall for the man who's mastered his own, not because he's cold, but because he burns slow, controlled fire. A man who has felt everything but doesn't show everything. A man who could lose it but chooses not to. That's what emotional detachment is. It's not absence, it's restraint. It's walking through the chaos of someone else's emotional storm and not forgetting your umbrella. It's hearing her test you, push you, provoke you, and instead of reacting with ego, you just breathe. Because you've stopped needing to be understood. You're not in this life to prove. You're in it to be. Let me take you back to a moment in my own life. Years ago, I was in a relationship that felt like quicksand. Every argument dragged me deeper. I was reactive, defensive, desperate to be seen as the good guy. Until one night, after yet another emotional explosion, I sat in my car staring at the steering wheel and asked myself, what am I doing? I was performing. I was chasing love like a beggar chases coins. I wasn't leading with presence. I was leading with fear. That night, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't explain myself. I simply left. And the silence that followed, it was the most powerful thing I ever said, because from that point forward, I wasn't her puppet anymore. I was my own man again. You see, silence, when it comes from strength, is louder than any speech. The emotionally detached man doesn't argue for his worth. He doesn't chase closure. He doesn't break just because she doesn't understand him, because he understands himself. And that kind of man, she remembers forever. This is where Stoic philosophy becomes more than ancient text. It becomes a code. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." And most men suffer not because of what women do, but because of what they expect women to do. They expect her to always reciprocate, to always understand, to always choose loyalty over novelty. But a Stoic man doesn't build his peace on her predictability. He builds it on his discipline. He doesn't control her. He controls how he responds to her. And that subtle shift, it's the line between chaos and calm, between the boy who reacts and the man who leads. A lot of men think emotional detachment means not giving a damn, but that's the counterfeit version. Real detachment is loving someone while knowing they can leave tomorrow and still choosing to love them without fear. Because your peace is no longer tied to their presence. You've tasted solitude, you've chosen stillness. You've realized she can add to your life, but she will never become your life. That's masculine maturity, that's emotional sovereignty. So ask yourself again, when she pulls away, do you chase or do you remain? When she tests your frame, do you collapse or do you stand taller? Because a woman can feel the difference between a man who needs her and a man who sees her, and she can't resist the second, and she can't resist the second, because he doesn't orbit her, he orbits something bigger, his values, his mission, his self-mastery. And in a world where men are trained to pedestalize beauty, to chase approval, to fear rejection, he becomes an anomaly. He chooses purpose over pursuit, stillness over reaction, respect over validation. He knows that what makes him attractive is not how much he gives away, but how much he retains. Let me tell you about a man named Chris, late 30s, quiet confidence, ran his own business, practiced Brazilian jiu-jitsu, read Epictetus at night. He wasn't flashy, didn't post gym selfies, didn't brag about his income, but every time we'd go out, women noticed him, not because he was loud, but because he was present, centered, polished without being polished for anyone. One day, someone asked him, "What's your secret with women?" He shrugged and said, "I don't chase chaos, I invite peace. If she can't match that, she's not for me." That hit me like a thunderclap. Most men are out here negotiating their standards for connection, but emotionally detached men, they don't negotiate peace to accommodate drama. They don't explain their boundaries, they embody them. And that's what makes them so irresistible. Not because they try harder, but because they try less and own more. They own their time, their energy, their state of mind. They don't apologize for being selective. They don't abandon themselves to be accepted, and they don't fear being alone because they've made solitude sacred. Detachment in relationships doesn't mean you stop loving. It means you love without losing yourself. You stop being emotionally hijacked by every text delay, mood swing, or silent treatment. You stop reading into her behavior like it's scripture, because you've trained your nervous system to respond, not panic. You've moved from boy energy to king energy, where your love is strong but never needy, where your presence is rare but never desperate, where your silence carries more weight than most men's best lines. This doesn't come easy. It requires emotional control. It demands mental strength. It calls for a kind of self-respect that no one can give you. You must build it. And every time you resist the urge to prove your worth to someone who doesn't see it, every time you walk away from drama instead of stepping into it, every time you choose stillness over reaction, you become more attractive, not just to her, but to yourself. So here's the question, brother. Are you trying to be loved, or are you learning to love without attachment? Are you chasing intensity or creating intimacy from inner stability? Because one path ends in addiction, the other leads to freedom. Freedom, that's the quiet reward of emotional detachment. Not just freedom from others, but freedom from yourself, from the old self, the reactive self, the needy, impulsive self that traded inner peace for momentary validation. Because here's the truth most men never hear. You were never meant to chase her emotions. You were meant to command your own. You were never meant to be predictable. You were meant to be present. You were never meant to orbit her moods like a planet begging for sunlight. You were meant to become the sun. And when you do, she feels it. Even if she can't explain it, even if she walks away from it, even if she's not ready for it, she remembers. Because you weren't just another man looking for a role in her story. You were a man writing your own. There's a moment in every man's life when he realizes he's been giving his power away, not by choice, but by habit, reacting to women, reacting to rejection, reacting to approval, attention, withdrawal, like a slave to their opinion, like a passenger in his own soul. But the moment he stops, the moment he detaches from that cycle, the world notices. Because now he's different, unmoved, not because he's numb, but because he's finally alive on his own terms. Final rehook number 9. And that, my brother, is the magnetic core of Stoic masculinity. It's not how loud you speak, it's how deeply you listen to yourself. It's not how fast you act, it's how powerfully you don't. It's not how many women want you, it's how few people can move you from your center. So if you're watching this right now, and you've been hurt, if you've been abandoned, ghosted, cheated on, misunderstood, good. You're being called to a deeper version of yourself. Not the man who reacts, not the man who explains, but the man who remains. A Stoic leader in a world of followers. A man who doesn't chase women because he's too busy leading himself. If you take one thing from this video, let it be this. You do not need to be emotionally cold. You need to be emotionally mastered at. Because the world will pull at you, women will test you, life will wound you, but you get to choose every single day to respond with stillness, to protect your peace like it's sacred, to become the kind of man who doesn't flinch when everything around him begs him to fall apart. That's power, that's presence, that's the man she can't forget, and the man you'll respect in the mirror. So walk the path, build your mind, guard your emotions, lead yourself. Because emotional detachment isn't about shutting off. It's about finally turning on the parts of you that were never meant to beg.